Hal Humphreys here with PI Education and Pursuit Magazine, and this is your weekly briefing. This month is all about surveillance here at PI Education and Pursuit Magazine. Last week we had a story from Ami Tobin about surveillance topics. This week I'm going to throw a couple of surveillance/ethics questions at you, and later in the week we're going to have family law attorney Phil Newman join us for a little chat about the best way to handle some of these issues. So the question is, and these have to do with surveillance and ethics, and the reason I'm asking these right now is we're wrapping up our ethics course. We're pretty excited about it, and these questions will make it into the ethics course as things to think about. So here's a thought problem for you to consider. You have a client who's hired you. He's leaving town this weekend. He is fairly certain that his significant other is doing drugs at the house while he's out of town. Now, under normal circumstances, that may be nobody's business, but he's leaving the kids at home with their mother, and he's afraid she's using drugs while he's gone. He asks you to set up surveillance to catch her in the act. What do? What can you do? Can you put a camera in the house? Is that okay? Is it even legal? Can you put a camera outside in the backyard, maybe by the pool? Things to consider there is it inside of a privacy fence? Does the person have an expectation of privacy? How about in the garage? How about in the garage where we think the person goes to smoke weed and possibly other things? Can you put a camera in there? Do they have an expectation of privacy? Later this week, we're going to have attorney Phil Newman join us to talk about all the different scenarios we might run into. This is an actual case that I worked on with Phil, so I'm kind of curious to see how he answers this question now a couple of years after the fact. I know what we did, and I think it worked out fine, but there's some things to think about as a private investigator. When do you start to cross that boundary into violating that expectation of privacy? Here's another one for you. If you're driving down the street and you can see in the backyard of the subject, obviously that's fair game. You can take pictures of that. You can take video of that. If it's visible from a public right-of-way, you're fine, right? How about this? If when you stop the car, you can't see over the fence, you have to stand on your bumper to get a good view. Is that okay? What about this? Can you climb up on the fence, put your fingers over and do a little Kilroy move to see over the fence? Is that okay? How about putting your camera on a pole and popping it up over the fence to get video on the other side? What about a drone? All of these things are things that surveillance operatives have to think about on occasions. Again, this month is all surveillance, all month long, except for the parts that aren't. I'm Hal Humphreys, and that's your weekly briefing.